Hello Internet, I'm Dan.
And I'm Chaz, and this is Wine is Serious Business, episode
178.
Yep. And we're here with one of our favorite winemakers. We do this show every year, Isabelle Dutartre.
Hi.
And yes, so we're here to taste through the 2010 vintage at DePonte, and we're very excited. So
Very excited.
Good. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So the first one is Dundee Hill, 2010.
And this has been on the market for a while now, right? This has been out for...
Yeah, we released when? I don't really know. I'm not sure we released Estate and Reserve yet. But
Oh,
that
really?
one, no? Yeah.
oh, okay.
I think maybe for Memorial Day.
I think it's out.
Yeah, I mean, if
I
you
don't
want
know.
it, we sell it.
Yeah, yeah. Close enough.
Come out to the valley and taste.
Yeah.
You'll probably get some. So, what can you tell us about the 2010 vintage? How was it for you guys up here? As everyone knows, right? Kind of a cooler vintage.
It was a cooler vintage, not too, a bit late, but it's a beautiful vintage. For me, it's really Burgundian style, really low alcohol wine, and they turn out to be really more on the complexity, the elegance, and you know, like 2009 before. I mean, 9 was more on the alcohol, a bit roundness, a little bit more roundness, but 10 they have this something more classy.
Right.
I will say close to 2002 maybe.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
Yeah,
vintages.
me too, it's fun.
And I also want to give you some public credit for this. You're one of very few people that throughout the growing season in 2010, right, there was a lot of panic. Many people were worried, right? People were talking about how bad it was. She, from the beginning, was on Facebook. My grapes look so beautiful. I'm so excited for 2010. These wines are going to be delicious.
Yeah, and the forecast was beautiful. I mean, I remember having this meeting, for winemaker meeting, beginning of September. It was far away to be right. But the forecast was like, oh, we're going to give you 4 weeks of sun, and everybody was so stressed. Why? I mean, I would have been stressed if the forecast was like rain and rain and rain, but with this beautiful September and October, I mean, it was nice.
And the late ripening works well, right?
Oh
Like
yes,
it's-
they were.
yeah.
I mean, for me, they're beautiful ripeness. But
Excellent.
And the weather here on the Dundee Hills was good during that time. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
There's so much complexity on the nose here. I've been really excited about this wine since the first time I tried it.
It's been a while for me.
But
I
just
don't know, these-
great, like, you know, cherries, both sour cherries and dark cherries. Kind of like floral, kind of like roses in there as well too.
It's really floral, and
Yeah.
for me, it's what brings me to Burgundy. Is when I get this like violet stuff, and 10 and 11 they are maybe the most Burgundian for me, and yes, they bring me back home.
More than 2007 even? Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I love the 07.
Yeah.
And sometimes these wines can exhibit, at least the Dundee Hills for me, can exhibit a lot of that like sort of earthy, barnyardy stuff. On the nose, this is definitely more fruit-driven,
Yeah.
nose-wise, and floral-driven. The floral sticks out big time. Dan was correct on the cherries and like raspberry fruits. It's just wonderful. It smells absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's really, and I think they are a bit close right now as 2010. You know, they go through phases, and they were beautiful like 2 months ago, and now they start to like, you know, and they do a bit like that. But I mean, the nose is quite open. It's,
Yes.
Good savory component too, I think. Yeah, it's really.
and you see they are not a dark color like, but I mean it's Pinot Noir, just like the way.
Yeah, really, really bright ruby. The violet component comes out strong on the palate.
Yeah, and they are all, so they are a bit, for me right now, when I say tight, it's not really tight, but they are a bit, they are closing a bit, you know?
Okay.
You see? But,
I think, yeah, from when I first tasted it, it definitely
oh,
was a
they
little
change
more,
a lot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they will come back, and it's a style of vintage, like 07, 10, 11. You know, it's really vintage in need time, more than vintage, which is open and with the alcohol or whatever. But I love them. I mean, I think really it's one of the best vintage we had in Oregon. And I'm really, really happy, really excited to see them, you know, aging.
The acidity is really enjoyable in this already. And something that's really jumping out at me as exciting is that like there is like the raspberry and the cherry fruit, a little more tart fruit, but there's this really light sense in the middle of like the forest floor that you kind of get in a lot of Oregon wines. It's not really strong, like this isn't like a funky or really strongly earthy wine, but it's just this little sense of it in the middle that creates some really good complexity with the fruit.
And you see how long they are. I mean, it's a Dundee, that's a regular one, and they are really long, and you keep them for a while. I mean, they are still, boop, boop. You see what I mean? It's just like, I don't know, I like this style of wine.
No, the tannic feel on this too is very, very nice, right? There's a grip from it that comes in late, but there's no abrasiveness whatsoever. It just grips the cheeks, grips the gums a little bit, but absolutely, completely like fine grain, no roughness.
I try not to.
It's good. You do a very good job. Yeah.
No, I don't like when I am when a wine aggressors me. Aggressors me. I hate that. So I think you make somewhere the wine you like, no?
I would think
we
so.
hope so,
Yeah.
That's, or at least you do with so much experience, right?
I think, you know, it depends, because if you want to stick to the market, sometimes you have to make a wine you don't like.
Sure.
But, I'm not here. I mean, it's more like bigger winery. And you have like this big contract with, you know, I don't know, but you have to make a wine the way people like it.
Yes.
But when you are small, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And plenty of people like your wine, right? Like, yeah. That's good. It works out for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
Well, so overall for this wine, wonderful. And at the price point, this is consistently one of my favorite bottlings in all of the Willamette Valley, because you get a good sense of what this area can produce. It's one of the better bottlings at like, what, the $32 price point or something like that, $35 price point.
Mid-30s somewhere, yeah.
Mid-30s. But yes, another spot-on, fantastic vintage of this. So.
Yeah, consistent high quality. Again, like we talk about this a lot, but if you're not familiar with DePonte Cellars, they're located in the Dundee Hills, which in my opinion is the best AVA in the United States.
In the world, you mean?
It's
competitive.
competitive.
When you fight with the Mosel, you know.
but it is one of the, you know, but it is I think one of the landmark grape growing regions, right?
For me,
absolutely.
Dundee Hill, it's anyway in Oregon, it's really something apart. It's different. It's different world.
I would totally agree.
It's just like more this complexity, finesse. Sometimes, you know, they are showing less fruit, less roundness, less things than, you know, other AVA. I like them too, like Shirley or Dalton. But they are so, they are talking to you. They have a soul. They have something. They have this complexity and this minerality. Sometimes I don't find in Oregon, you know, there's like, yeah, a bit of minerality, and it makes more Burgundian and more complex than big and round.
For me, going back and looking at my notes, I can consistently play, like, if you like, you know, chart it for each AVA, there are consistently better notes for this AVA than all the other ones combined. It's just something about this area produces the most complex and like wonderful wines. So
yeah, but yeah, great vineyard location, and what is this? What, the 2010 would be what, your ninth vintage with DePonte Cellars then?
No, I was one was the first. So
you did 2001?
10.
Oh, okay, 10th. All right. Yeah, so 10th vintage with these grapes, and more years of making wine elsewhere. So a lot of experience. Good quality soil, right? Like,
yeah, and few vintage not far away from here too, which really consistent. But yeah, no, it's interesting to see the vineyard now. It's changing too.
Cool.
When you pass like the 10 years in a vineyard, you start to change. You know, you start to. I hope we are going to get more and more and more complexity every vintage, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably cool to get to watch the vineyard grow up too.
Yeah,
right?
and then you have
particular blocks that
yeah,
blossom
then you have
or
few
like.
blocks, you know, they are still young and they are like 6 years old, 6-year-old, and I'm sure they are going to be beautiful. So I'm waiting them like every year. What are you going to give me this year? I'm so excited with
Awesome.
to see them like changing. And yeah, this year they gave me really beautiful stuff. And,
Awesome.
Great.
All right. So
well, yes, anyway.
Let's move on to the next wine.
let's talk about
Since
this
we're
guy.
talking about all the different blocks, so as you can see,
Liver rinse.
we've got we have a bunch of different tiers of DePonte Pinot Noir, and she splits them all out by block selection. And so, right, you get to know the character of the different blocks, how they evolve in barrel, and then you make your
Yeah, the blend I
selections.
make is like basically I select few barrels.
I lied, yeah, it's barrel selection, not block selection. Yeah, that was wrong.
Yeah, but often it comes from the same block
Yeah.
at the end. But it's barrel selection, and it's especially, you know, like they have to go together. If you blend two good wines, you are not going to have a good wine. You could have like a wine, correct wine, but you know.
Huh.
And if you blend two wines, they are not perfect. They can do like a puzzle. You
Yeah.
know, like one has a bit too much acidity, one has not enough, one has too much tannin, but one is really long but missing something. And you put them, it's just like, oh, it makes
a complete
it
wine.
makes a wine.
Yes, yes.
It's
And-
exciting when you find that combination, right?
And that's, I think it's the most, one of the most exciting part in winemaking, except harvesting. But
that
it's
would be fun,
blending,
yeah.
because it could take me forever. Like, you know, I just start now to think about my 2012,
Mm-hmm.
and I have some ideas of different lots, they can go together, but that's it, you know. I mean, then I'm going to try and I'm not going to be happy, and then at the end I have to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So estate is, the idea of the estate is to have like more, like a premier cru of Burgundy, like I would say more presence,
Mm-hmm.
like more in the complexity in the land, in something more Burgundian. Go up, like, you know.
And do you have some favorite blocks for the estate right now? Or has that changed pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, it could change, you
Sure.
know. But they are all good, my blocks.
Yeah. Also,
I love it.
fantastic nose,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love the snow.
Jumps out of the glass.
Like,
This one's getting a little more dirty and a little like I could actually smell the earth here, and I can smell the more minerality.
Oh,
in it.
yeah, totally.
Yes.
I like the minerality, and I like this character of like it's a bit like you smell a bit of the soil, you know?
Yes.
Like
Like
it's
the dry red earth.
idea
almost.
of the wine. It's
Yes.
showing, okay, you know, I'm from here.
And flowers and dark citrus components, I think, coming
Yeah,
through
nice
too.
citrus.
Yeah. So enjoyable, like, yeah, this is...
And there
reminds
is a
me
bit
to
of
smell.
cotton candy with, like, when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Just a little touch of sweet candy going on in the nose.
In
So where'd
France
you
we
have
this
cotton candy in France? Was this in the fairs or was this
Oh,
in
yeah.
the shops in town?
fairs, but
Okay.
they have like, it's a stick, and they put
Yep.
this, it's huge, it's like that, and it's all fluffy, and you put your, and you have like everywhere in your hair, and your mother here on you, like I did on my daughter, whatever, it's just like, it's huge and it's fluffy, it's
Yeah.
like a cloud of cotton.
Oh, I love cotton candy. It's fantastic.
And then,
It gets all over your face. You've got it like
It's
on
no
your
good with
eyebrows.
beer, I can't...
no, but the good thing is you put a full mouth and then you just, where it is,
Melts
it's just
away.
like... Well, anyway, there is a little bit of that.
Yeah, so to the wine, this is definitely even a step up in complexity from the last one, which was already a complex wine. But this is imparting more earth and more mineral and more, just a little more to the nose. So,
Isn't that good? I just like the mouthfeel on this is so fantastic.
It's beautiful wine. I mean, it's my favorite. 2010
Wow. Yeah.
estate is going to be a killer killer.
A killer. Yes.
Killer?
A killer.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you
You
for
got
the
it.
translation. He got it better than me, man.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah.
I know.
The mouthfeel is so delicate, but the flavors are still 100% present. There's great complexity as I'm talking. The acidity is gently making my mouth water. The flavors linger for so long and not with a heavy sense. It's just, yeah.
You know, when you recognize a good wine, it's when it's over, you want more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think when the bottle is done, is gone, you want to open another one.
Mm-hmm.
You're sure you made a good wine.
And you could drink this all day.
No, don't do that.
And that happens to you with the estate then?
The estate, I think, is really the style of wine I like.
See?
You know, it's just like, there is a little bit more new oak normally than in the normal one. It's difficult to say because basically, like I blend them the way I don't want that over oak, but I want a little bit more presence of oak, and I would say I go like to 40–50% about that, but often I'm going to use maybe more 1-year-old barrels or so. It's tough to say it's 50%, but it's about there, I would say.
Understood.
And again, for those of you who's the first time seeing it or maybe aren't familiar with what she does, like we'll be talking about using more oak in these wines, but don't get the impression that these are oaky wines. Like we just talked about this being 50%.
I didn't even...
And I wouldn't have guessed. And part of her history is that she worked for a barrel maker in France for a while, and she's very familiar with the flavors and the texture that the barrels bring to her wines. And it's not using oak to add richness or add structure, you know, for its own sake. It's part of the whole puzzle. And
yeah, it's just like you know, it's just like when you put some makeup. You know, you don't put a mask. You put makeup. You know, so you how you say that? It's just like some character of the wine is going to be pushed up with the barrel, but you don't want the barrel cover the wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like giving something.
You don't want to use the makeup to cover up, you want to use it to accentuate the good things.
Voila, and
Yes.
to reveal or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Reveal the, or whatever.
And this is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
It starts off sort of like a gentle red fruit, but then once you swallow it, it's almost like literally just an explosion. Like I feel like my mouth is just like literally watering while the wine is in my mouth, right? Like it's very, very juicy.
Yeah,
and,
I really like this 2010. Really, I think they are going to be beautiful wine.
That is beautiful, yes.
You know, when we taste the 2002 now, we just like, oh boy, I didn't buy like more cases. But no, I mean, I think they are going to have the same style of evolution.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah.
But they have everything to age well, you know, they have a nice acidity, they have the tannins are here, they are not big, but they structure the wine. I mean, they have everything to age.
You know, in some wines, you hear us talk about this on the show, like you drink it fast or you swish it around or you let it linger on the palate, kind of take your pick. Here, every which way, like every different way I try to experience it, I'm getting new things and they're all good. Like, and the length is man, fantastic. And
Yeah, it's changing.
and fun, yeah.
Initially soft red fruit, big grapefruit component with like the pith or like the white of the grapefruit a little bit inside of it as you swallow it, and then like a light earthy stemminess comes through on the finish, and tremendous length with the red fruit and grapefruit. Like there's a substantial amount of length, and the acidity is explosive, but in no way overtakes the wine at any point. Wonderful.
Even for him.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I rip on acidity a lot, like, because people will just overdo it. You lose things in the wine that I think.
Oh, I agree.
Sometimes with overdone acidity, and this is not that. So
The wine, I mean, the balance of a wine is the balance between the alcohol, the acidity, and the tannins. That's the three, poles of the wine. And if one is, too much, if there is too much tannins, or there is too much acidity or too much alcohol, I mean, it's out of balance. mean, it's like...
There seems to be some a trend with like just maximizing the acidity, and I think a lot of people do like that and enjoy that, but I fall with it regularly, so that's just something.
I like acidity, but
don't see that here.
all together.
Yes, absolutely.
But great wine, one of my favorites of the 2010 vintage. Honestly, yeah, it's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would say
You
the
don't
same.
say that because I'm here, right?
No, I said that. I think I was telling Jazz how much I liked it on the way out.
No, we will be honest.
No, I like to. So.
We appreciate your wines. Yes, they're.
We're excited to be doing this 4 years in a row, really. So thanks for keeping the invitation out and inviting us to taste with you.
No, I like to do it because for me it's important too. Because when the wine are in bottle, I don't taste them so often, and if I taste them, I don't take my time sometimes. You know what I mean? To taste them, and taste them on a roll like the three together. It's really important for me after like few years,
To see how they're doing, yeah.
And it's good to talk about it, right? Because it makes you really.
Yeah, and it's good to have your opinion and smell other things than me and whatever. It's always interesting. I think it's more you do stuff like that, more you learn, and the wine business wines you learn every day.
It's true. It's one thing that keeps me coming back to these. To wine in general, right? It's just the sheer amount of learning. Every vintage is so different, right? It's fun to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this wine, the Baldwin Family Reserve for 2010.
Alors, the reserve, the idea of the reserve was a reserve. I mean, something with shoulder, a bit more masculine. You can keep longer, more New York, maybe more square. I would say than the estate. I don't go to the estate, I'm going to pick up the lot like they really like, talk to me. The reserves, they are bigger. But when you go on something bigger, often you go up in complexity and length because it goes together. But it's maybe more, I don't know what you are going to think about, but a bit more masculine.
Okay.
Even for me, masculine is never really masculine, but... Yeah, it's bigger, body and more New York.
A little bit more of a commanding nose too, as far as the fruit, right? There is an obvious, stronger fruit presence in the nose.
I mean, you see, when you smell it, you know it's going to be bigger.
And definitely a shift more towards the dark cherries as opposed to the citrus or sour cherries. Yes.
Dark side of the force. But I was searching for a Star Wars reference. It just didn't happen.
Do you have a favorite vineyard in Burgundy that does the masculine style wine in a way you like?
I think 88 was a bit like a big presence of wine. It was they were difficult to approach for a wine, but they were great wines.
Sure.
So yeah, the dark cherry component for the nose is definitely coming out, but almost like just a little bit like pie crust or something coming out of the nose as well.
Yeah.
And the delicious aroma, right? Yeah, and then we're not talking like stewed cherries here. Like the cherries definitely have a fresh feel to them, but there's just a little bit of
crust.
Yeah, there's just like a little bit of a fresh crust nose coming out of it. And
there is a little touch of smokiness too, I think. I really think that's more the barrel.
Okay.
Because for me, like when you go up in the barrel level like that, sometimes they need a bit more time to be more integrated.
Sure.
So I would say more this wine is going to age, better the integration will be. It's going to come together like that.
And one thing we should mention is that all three of these wines are pop and pours.
Yep, that's true. Yep, they were open 15 minutes ago or something like that.
So,
oh yeah. Oh, if you taste them tomorrow, they are going to be totally different. But it's interesting to see how they are in the bottle now.
Yes.
Because
Well, having done this show with you four vintages in a row, and having gotten to have like one of these wines the next day after we've, they change considerably over the next day. Sometimes they gain a little more muscle. Sometimes they soften out and just become the most delicate things ever. So it's amazing how Pinot Noir is fantastic for that. So
my wines are not afraid of oxygen too. So they hold very well. I mean, you can keep like 2 days like that. They taste very well even after 2 days. Yeah, it's a bit more. You like it?
Oh yeah. And one of the things I like about Isabelle's wine and about the Dundee Hills in general is there's this capacity for this just like soft, luxurious mouthfeel.
But you see, there is a chowder. I mean, there is.
Well, the intensity of the flavor is substantial, right? Like it is picked up a notch. Yes, it is.
But you see the difference between the estate and the reserve. I think on this vintage you can see very well. Like one is more like, I mean, the estate is just like, yeah, so delicate, and that one is a little bit.
This is dark and mysterious.
Yeah,
But in the same time, it's complex too. So I mean, it's
lots of complexity. Yeah, I'm still getting like little floral notes, but they're more in the background. And the fruit here is significantly darker than the previous two wines. It's got some weight to it. You can feel the influence of the oak on there a little bit, right? There's just a little bit of that richness that shows itself.
yeah, a bit of licorice.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Again,
Yeah.
like, that's the barrel too, and I think it's just like need a little bit more time. But the reserve, that was the goal, to have something you know you can keep 10 years or whatever. I mean,
Right.
if you want to have wine, like to open in 5 years and have something more on the evolution and.
What was it? Didn't we have an O2 Baldwin Family Reserve when we went
it's so
to?
beautiful.
Oh man.
It's a beautiful one.
It almost. I'm pretty sure it stole the show when we went to the Pigeon that night. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was wonderful.
The O2 reserve, I mean, there is all the reserve when they get older, and O2 was the first one I made.
And it's hard to decide when to drink them, right? 'Cause we both collect these, and they're like kind of the precious bottles, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to wait for a good occasion to enjoy something that you've held on to for 10 years. So
It's good people.
yeah, exactly.
And not
Yeah,
too
so-
late in the night, right?
Right,
You have to-
No, we opened it alongside some serious wine.
It was a good
and
night, yeah.
It was a good night, yes.
Yeah.
And it stood up. It did a very good job. So yes, and this is right in line with that. This undeniably with the way the structure and the integration already is. Yes, it could come more into its own, and it could be a little tighter, but or I guess more integrated. But there is substantial structure and substantial intensity of flavor here. Like the amount of dark red fruit that sits on the palate when you taste it and then when you swallow, it's like still just blanketing the tongue. After you talk about it, like 30 seconds later, I'm still talking, and yes, I still taste the wine.
And the acidity reminds me more of like a blood orange or like something really dark as opposed to like the grapefruit or limes that you get in lighter wines. Where all of the character about this is on the darker side. So.
No, I'm happy it's like that right now because it's really the way I want the reserve. I want it a bit more close, more
Substantial.
yeah,
A little more powerful.
And are the blocks you use for this pretty consistent? Do you have like ones that you?
Pretty consistent.
Can you tell us about like are there any parts of like in those blocks? Is there similarities between them that you can talk about, or are they in different parts of the vineyard and they just have special character?
Well, there is a frame, I would say, for the reserve, which
Yeah.
goes always like on one of my 667.
Okay.
But to go with that, it really depends on the vintage. Some year I'm going to add like, I had Vadenville, for example, because Vadenville adds beautiful floral character and delicatesse or whatever. So I had a bit of that to just give to the 667 another dimension. But sometimes it's going to be another clone, like it could be a 777 or what else, 115. But it's really depends of all the quantity and the balance of my different block. It really depends on the vintage. For sure, you have some blocks. I mean, any winemaker who knows his vineyard is going to tell you like every year the good blocks, they are good. Which you see there is something between the rootstocks, the clone, and the soil and the exposure, like something you can call terroir, which make like every year it's going to be something good. So
Awesome.
when you know it, I would say you have less and less to do, because, oh, okay, that's the Reserva one.
That's fun though, right? I mean, that's really getting to know the vines,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there is a
yeah.
frame. It's like
Yeah.
like the estate, you know, the clone, they go in the estate, they are, I know what I'm not going to put in.
Yeah.
But then I don't know for sure which one. But it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, like, you know, me, I'm not a big fan of Pommard, which like everybody is going to tell you Pommard is the best or whatever. And I'm not sure here on this particular, you know, estate on Dundee, I'm not sure he makes the best wine in Pommard. But it's changing, because it's aging and it's changing. The block is changing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he change, I'm ready to change with him, right? I'm not like, I try to blind taste my wine as most as I can, like when I don't put the clone on the barrel or the block or anything, so when I sample, it's numbers.
That's cool.
And
That's
so
cool.
I try not to, because I could learn them, or some I know better.
No, because your brain, right? Your brain plays into it.
And often
yeah.
I blend all my sample and I grab one and I taste like that. Or Suzanne helped me to just like pour me something, because I don't want to know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck with something I think. I like the Vadenville at the beginning. For me, I never had a good Vadenville, because I had maybe there is 2 different clones and one is not so good. But anyway, and one day, I mean, I put some in the reserve and I say, oh gosh, please change my mind. And
awesome.
and I hope the Pommard is going to take the same direction. And I'm happy in 2012 what I get there.
And we definitely appreciate all the work you put into making these, really, all this research to get the selections that you think are just right, because it's really...
Yeah, I think it's really tough to, tasting is like when you know what you taste. It's for that I don't agree with people often in magazine. Like
Sure.
They rate wine, but they know what they are tasting. Oh, sure, if I taste a Romane Conti, I'm not going to put a bad rating, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's weird.
So you can taste blind.
Yep, we try to do blind shows sometimes too.
It's a way you have to do
You
it.
do get influenced by the label sometimes.
I mean, it's normal. It's human. We had this tasting of Dundee in 2011 the other day, blind tasting 20 Pinot Noirs from all around. I mean, it was really interesting. Really interesting.
Sounds like a good time.
Or when you taste a good one, say, I hope it's mine.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, but you learn that way too, right? Like that's.
I love my wine.
Good. Good.
No, it was really interesting, like when you do that, because you learn something and you just like, you have not this pressure of, oh, I taste my wine, so I'm going to like it.
Pretty easy to pick your wine out of the lineup, or sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, no, it was quite easy. I think 11 is going to be quite easy to recognize your wine, because it's not an easy vintage. But I would say in a vintage where everything is good, like 08 on, it's a bit more difficult.
That makes sense.
Yeah, everyone's fruit came in.
But when you have a challenging vintage,
you see the work that someone did. Right?
And I think you recognize them, because they have like, it's more what you did, the way you made the wine as more important than when it's an easy vintage, like 12 or 8, they give you up. It's easy. So it's less input of yourself, I would say.
So a vintage like 8, you just got out of the way, right?
Oh,
like,
you
the
put
wines.
them in fermenters, you go on vacation, and that's done.
That's great. That's awesome.
No, I'm kidding, but it's a bit that. It's just like easy going.
Cool.
So good to have a vintage like 12 then after a couple of tough cold vintages.
That's what I say. I am not stressed this year. I went to vacation. I'm ready to go somewhere else too.
So what are we drinking now?
Well, let me get the rinse first.
Yeah. I will get in front of your face. I'm sorry.
That's fine. You gotta get the rinse done. Thank you.
Okay. All right. But for you, you rinsed already. Yes.
I did.
Okay.
So we're on to this is a change in tradition for us here. We did the 2009 Shirley's Reserva last year, and we're going to do it again this year because it was really young. The previous few years we tasted with Isabelle, we've always either pulled barrel samples or brand new bottled Shirley's Reserva. well before it's been released to the public. And we decided this year that that's really not the right way to show these wines, especially, you know, the one that you put effort into being like special, collectible, ageable bottle. We should give it a little more time. So we did the 2009 last year, we're going to do the 2009 again this year, and every year going forward will be one vintage behind on the Shirleys.
Gives it a little more time in bottle.
Yeah, just to explain that the Shirley stay 2 years in barrel. So basically it's bottled with the next vintage. So it was bottled with the 2010. So they were all bottled same time, these ones. So it makes more sense to taste them the same times too. So they have the same time in bottle.
Yes.
And what do you feel that extra year in barrel brings to the wine?
You know, it's funny because like often during summer, like they don't taste very well. I am talking about the second summer.
Sure.
And they start to dry, and you know they are in new barrels. It's about 2 barrels, so it's often new barrels. And often when I rack them, I just like change. I put in 1 year barrel because there is too much new oak. And so they are really over oak for a while for me. And then the summer is bad, and like I bottle them like December or January, and I don't know if because they are feeding the new babies, I don't know what happened like during harvest, but it just changed. I think it's really a question of pressure. Pressure, temperature outside. I mean, they are changing, and they change always this time of the year. But anyway, it gives more. I don't know. It's just like it gives not more body, but more like
richness,
maturity.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just like
definitely.
It's like us. We get mature.
The more time we spend in barrel.
Yeah,
speak for themselves.
Even now. But no, it's just like yes, they mature. They get something more, something deeper, something.
Yes, a little more wisdom.
Yes, I'm not sure people see what I mean, but it's it's something. If they are different than the same wine, if you bottle it, you know, a year before, and they are different.
I think it makes sense, and also like something to keep in mind. Like a lot of people who watch the show also make wine or are very big hobbyists too, so they definitely understand.
Yeah, and well, you take more risk when I will say like like you know, we talk about the Brettanomyces and everything. So more you stay in barrels, you know, less you take, the more you take risk, and it's just like it's like this guy is in barrels and he's like building his health. You know what I mean? He's like building his strongness. And I don't know, it just like makes them deeper, stronger, and for sure more different in the complexity too, because they get more oxygen for a longer time. So it's going to change the tannins by themselves. If you want to talk about, you know, really wine, what is a wine, and change the tannins, and the wine is going to be more stable too, because he had 1 year to, you know, to be more. To go through the cold in winter and everything, so yeah, they are different. They are maybe softer,
Sure.
Even if they spend more time in New York, and even if they had like these phases like, they taste weird, but
and it's nice that you know that evolution, right? So you can,
and when you smell it, I mean, they were like in New York. It's 100% New York.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't really smell it right.
Nope, you can tell that there's some there, but it's not.
Oakiness, no, but for me it comes out as like a. Have you ever? Like my grandparents had the potpourri dish, right? And it was like the shaved wood with like they had obviously been soaked in something, but then with like a dried rose petal aroma or a dried rose aroma, and I get some of that here with the bright red fruit. Bright young
and
red
so
fruit.
then we are on 09 with, I mean, it was the vintage a bit more alcohol than 2010, so everything is going to be a bit more volatile. The good thing is when you spend more time in barrel, I think they lose more alcohol, so the alcohol goes down, so it's good for a high alcohol vintage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's roundness and the softness of the alcohol is going to, you know, I don't know, help a bit maybe the barrel there.
Yeah, good dark cherries again. Definitely more richness. Like you can definitely tell.
Yeah, there's
in
a rich component coming out.
Yeah, that it was a riper year, right?
Yeah, ripe in sugar, and not in tannins.
Sure, that makes sense on the palate.
Powerful.
It's big.
Much more together than last year too.
Absolutely.
This is really exciting to see that evolution. Like last year, it was a little more disjointed, and to see the components working together
Showing
smoothly
integration
across
now,
the palate,
yes.
like is
Yeah, and
really
really
nice.
things they need time, this Shirley, because you know it's 2 years in barrel. My gosh.
Very exuberant fruit here, and very exuberant acidity. Yes,
Definitely. Oh yeah.
and not like explosive like we were
Wow.
talking about in the estate, but just talk about spinal tap. Well, it goes to 11. Like this, that's sort of what I'm getting here, and not in a like an extracted sense or like a overdone sense. It's just the intensity levels on everything are very high, and in a good way.
And I think the acidity here is really noteworthy in that sense. It starts out with the like darker, riper black cherries that you kind of get on the nose, and I'm expecting it to be this heavier fruit across the palate, and then these raspberry flavors with the full acidity really rises up in the back end and keeps things light and fresh. And that transition from the like darker, heavy beginning to the lighter, crisper back end is really interesting to experience. And you know, and I love that kind of complexity.
Yeah, I think that's a characteristic of the 09 vintage. It's like even if we had a big ripeness, they kept this beautiful acidity, and this freshness of the fruit, which normally is weird for a high alcohol vintage.
Yes,
But
for
we had
09 you would expect it to be a little darker and like this.
Yeah, but we had this. The heat was really just before harvest, so I mean, we didn't really lose the acidity. We went up in sugar quickly, so we picked. But the tannins were ripe, and the fruit. I mean, we didn't lose that. We didn't lose its freshness. So it's really interesting.
Yes, and it's surprisingly youthful. Stepping from the 2010 estate to this, like the youth is still very much there, and almost more youthful in sense than the 10. Maybe the darkness and the masculinity of the 10 is like, this is a fresher, like more powerful, youthful sense to it.
I love how this is late on the finish too. Like well after you've swallowed.
But there's a lot of
like the minerality, like everything. Since the flavors are stronger up front, after you swallow it, the flavors are still fully present. And there's this like delicate sense
It's
of
like
the
you
full
have
range
still
of
a wine
flavors.
in your...
Exactly, yeah. It's like
Is it
drinking
right?
a white Pinot Noir. It's still like you got a light Pinot
Tremendous
Noir in
length.
your mouth. Yeah. And you just sit and think about, like, this is definitely a wine that yeah, you don't need anything with. Like, just sit, drink it with somebody, and just think about what's going on, right? And just really enjoy kind of the state of mind it puts you in.
well, 5 years from now. 5 to 7 years.
Sure, it get better
Yes.
as I'm thoroughly enjoying.
Yes,
like,
not to
this
say that I'm
experience
enjoying it
right
now, but I think once this one ages a bit, it'll be just beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Cool stuff. So yeah, definitely thanks as always for sharing.
Yeah,
this
thanks for treating us to this
fantastic
again. This is...
We were having a little conversation earlier. We made a quick cut to make sure we didn't run out of batteries, and we were talking about a couple different grapes in Oregon. But the question I kind of wanted to repeat was we were like, so do you think Oregon's capable of producing Pinot Noir? That stands shoulder to shoulder with Gran and Burgundy.
Well, I'm going to say first, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we are at we can have a level of Premier Cru on few wines. I'm not going to tell you all the production is going to be first cru in Burgundy, but with the best wine, and sometimes we are there. So Grand Cru is just like a step, you know. And it's what I told you, the vineyards are so young. I mean, just like we just need like 20 more years for my, not me, but the next winemaker.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, if the vineyard get more complexity and everything, why not? I mean, I hope I'm going to see it.
What are they typically? I mean, for as someone who I don't even know, when it comes to like what is a good age for vines that produce really magnificent fruit in Burgundy? Like, what are they really typically aiming for?
I think like they are still young when they are like 15 or 20, 15 years. I think they are still like young vines on the label. And I would say mature and going to be like 40, 50.
Wow. So Oregon still has a ways to go in most places.
Yeah,
there are some here, but yes.
Yeah, but the ones they were planted to, you know, like in 70s or whatever, we are not even sure they are all Pinot Noir. I mean, I remember the old vines we had here, we had to put them out because I was not even sure it was not Gamay or something, you know. And, so it's a good selection, you know. What we know where we were planting, it's not like in 75.
Right.
So
we still got a long ways to go then with the stuff that's established.
Yeah, we still there is some like 25 years. But no.
And that's a fascinating thing you touched on too, right? When you talk about 50-year-old vines, that means that whoever put them in the ground and made wine for the first 10, 20 years, it's going to be a different. It's the second generation at least, if not third or fourth, right? That's making the wines down the road. So.
Yeah.
That's one of the things exciting about what we do and like learning about wine here is because it's growing and we're seeing that journey, right?
The problem of winemaker is like when you get enough experience to start to really make wine, I mean good wine or whatever. You are not 18 years old, you know. I mean, you start to be like 30, 40, and you know, like. If you want to see your vineyard moving, you are going to be quite old at the end. So, I'm not sure I will see in 20 years.
When I was hanging out with Barnaby and they just planted that vineyard into the rock
Yeah.
quarry, he's like, I'm not even going to be around to see the best fruit out of this place.
Yeah.
Like he was
but
very sad.
if you could do that for me in 20 years, taste the wine and come and see me and say, oh, we taste the wine and the wine.
I hope we can.
We're still doing
I
that in 20 years.
Oh.
Here, we'll get you to commit to that right now. If we're all still around here in 20 years, will you drink one bottle of wine with us?
Sure.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who knows?
My gosh. I don't want to think about it.
It'll be a good time. So thanks a lot. We had a great time as always. We love sharing your wine with the people who watch the show.
Yes.
And do you have anything you'd like to ask them?
Oh, yeah, you ask always.
We always do.
Ask people. But I would say, do you have another favorite area for Pinot Noir except Oregon and Burgundy? Because
that's a good question.
I would like to know if you taste like, you know, from New Zealand or South Africa, or even small vineyard where you find like beautiful Pinot Noir, and we would be interested to know.
Please answer. Boy, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, like, let us know because we're really interested too. Like, if you feel really strongly about Pinot Noir from another region, love to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? Aside from Oregon, aside from Burgundy, what most excites you about? Is there a region that you are excited about?
I had beautiful from New Zealand, but not so excited than Oregon.
Okay. Yeah. I would say I've had a couple of good California Pinots from the Santa Rita Hills.
Santa Rita, but you know, like I would say more Oregon and California. I mean, I put together like, you know, somewhere else than here and Burgundy, like all the countries.
Yes.
And for the first time, I went to Germany a couple months ago. I had my first Mosel Valley Pinot Noir that I enjoyed enough that like I would happily drink a bottle of this and have a good time with it. And I actually had two. So while I don't know what we're talking about like greatness right now, but I think over time, and especially as the world warms, right, like Pinot Noir is going to be growing better in places where it never could before.
We're going to plant some.
I'm interested.
Canada.
Yeah. So we'll see. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, give us an answer, and we'll see you to talk about the 2011 vintage in another year.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.